Good afternoon. This year will begin at 1, so you can hang around or fast forward if you're listening to the recording. All the best. Hello, Izzy.
Hello, Rabbi.
How are you guys doing? Hello.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hello. I don't see your face.
Oh, Lima.
What do I see? Your ceiling. Oh, there you are.
Better.
Much better. Much nicer than the ceiling. And where are you joining us from?
You might not have heard Cape Town. It's called Cape Town.
Where in Cape Town?
From about 5 blocks from Chabad.
Which Chabad?
Kenta. Sorry, Sea Point.
Okay.
Sea Point, Chabad.
Okay, very nice. Well, at least your beaches are still open, huh?
Yeah, I believe yours are closed.
Johannesburg has no beaches. What do you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Plettenberg Bay is closed.
They until 6, and of course, 6 o'clock here, it's still like middle of the day. So it's a little bit.
The beaches are closed at 6?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The best time of the day to go to the beach.
Yeah. So why? What's the point of closing at 6? What, they're worried people will get sick or what?
I know you can only get sick after 6, apparently, according to the government.
Hello, Rabbi. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Ken.
Ken,
What do you think? What do you think?
Now, our beaches are open.
yes, I know, but we're just discussing why they close at 6.
I think it is linked in the liquor situation. I think it is. I'm not quite sure how they work it. If that was the only thing that they did strange, it would be all right. Too many strange.
Well, tell me what they don't decide. Makes sense. Mind you. And Rabbi, the shuls, we still on course.
My shul is pumping. We have 2 minyanim every morning and a big minyan at mincha every evening.
Are we
Baruch Hashem. But a lot of shuls in Joburg have closed for the holidays because people are away and they wouldn't have a minyan.
Oh yeah.
We closed because there were a couple of scares in our community. In fact, just over Shabbos, one of our members' wives passed away from COVID. It was a big shock.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so it's been a rough time. So we're all a little bit nervous about going to shul.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
Yeah.
We all have to take it more seriously, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it 1 o'clock yet? On the button.
Yeah.
We're going to be punctual for a change. Let's get started because so you've been doing sukkah. So welcome. Hello, David. Hello, Cohen. Who's Cohen? Hello, Cohen.
Hello.
Show us your face.
Hello.
Hello, Rabbi.
There's lots of Cohens out there. Please identify yourself.
Only a few. Good. Hello, Rabbi.
Anonymous. Oh. Hello, Dave. Hello, Leanne. Is it Mr. Cohen, Mrs. Cohen, Rabbi Cohen, Dr. Cohen, Miss Cohen? You don't know. Okay, anonymous. Okay, welcome everybody. So you have been doing sukkah, and we will carry on with the laws of sukkah. Now, as you know, women, Leanne, are exempt from mitzvahs that are, from positive commandments that are time bound.
Yes.
Like talis and tefillin. Similarly, sukkah is also time bound. So women are therefore exempt, strictly speaking. The man could go into the sukkah and the woman could say, I'm staying in the dining room. And she would be entitled halachically to do that. Of course, women have accepted upon themselves to eat in the sukkah as well, which is very beautiful and appropriate. But strictly speaking, they are exempt. along with other categories for other reasons. Women are exempt because it's time bound. Minors are exempt because they are under majority age. Slaves, in the olden days, they were slaves. They didn't have to do mitzvahs. So the women shouldn't be insulted by the company they're keeping here because each one is for different reasons. Then there's tumtum and androgynous, which are people of doubtful sexual identity. One has no clear genitalia, and one has elements of male and female, so we're not quite sure what they are exactly. Maybe Casta Semenya would fit in here. I'm not sure to what extent she has both elements. That's a big controversy in the sporting world, as we know. A minor who does not require his mother's presence, 5 or 6, is obligated to fulfill according to rabbinic decree. In other words, of course, we take our children into the sukkah. We usually encourage the children to decorate the sukkah, to get them involved and to train them and educate them. But when we train minors, male or female minors, in performance of mitzvahs, it's not because they are responsible, obligated to do it by biblical law, but rather because the rabbis have encouraged us to train them. You can't expect the kid, as he turns bar or bat mitzvah, suddenly he's going to be a practicing Jew. If he hasn't done a thing for the first 12 or 13 years of his life or her life. So we have to train them in their childhood to prepare them for bar and bat mitzvah so that they know what to do then. Number 2, people who are sick and their attendants. Somebody has noise in their background. If I could ask you to mute yourself. I don't have to mute everybody. Thank you. Okay, people who are sick and their attendants. Today we have helpers, carers, would be freed from the midst of sukkah. Not only, you don't have to be dangerously ill, you don't have to be in a hospital, you don't have to be critical, God forbid. Even if you just have a headache or a sore eye, the point is you're not feeling well, you're exempt from going into the sukkah. If you're uncomfortable to be in the sukkah, the Hebrew word is mitzta'er. Mitzta'er is more than uncomfortable. I am not happy with this translation of uncomfortable. Mitzta'er is someone who is in pain. I would say perhaps suffering discomfort would be better than just uncomfortable. So if you're suffering some discomfort, you're exempt. Now, how do we define uncomfortable? So, you're supposed to eat, drink, sleep, basically live in the sukkah, as we'll discuss shortly, just now in this chapter. So he says here, for example, a person who cannot sleep because of the wind, or the flies, or the mites, or the like, or there's a bad odor outside, so he would be suffering discomfort from that, and he would be exempt. Number 3, a mourner, even if you're sitting shiva, you're obligated to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah. Now, if someone dies on sukkahs, my own mother of blessed memory passed away on sukkahs. So we did the funeral on Chol HaMoed, but we only began sitting shiva after Yontif, after Simchas Torah. So nobody really sits shiva during sukkahs. If the funeral was before sukkahs, even on Erev sukkahs afternoon, then you would just sit shiva for an hour or 2 or 3, and then Yontif ends the shiva. So it's not one who's sitting shiva, but it's one who's in mourning. I guess you're in the 30 days of mourning, whatever. On the other hand, a chosen, a kala, you've just been married, and you're in the week of Sheva Brachos. Now, we would not get married on sukkahs. We don't do weddings. We don't even do weddings on Chol HaMoed. In the intermediate days, we also don't do weddings because we're busy with the Simcha of Sukkot. It's called Zman Simchatenu, the season of our joy, of rejoicing. And we shouldn't mix joyous events because if we're celebrating Sukkot, it takes away from the celebration of the wedding. If we're celebrating a wedding, it takes away from the joy of Sukkot. So we don't do weddings on Sukkot, even on Chol HaMoed. But if you got married between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, you would still be in Sheva Brachos in the 7 days of celebration after the wedding during Sukkot. So you would then be exempt from the mitzvah of Sukkot because you're busy with the mitzvah, another mitzvah of rejoicing in the Simcha. Number 4, shluchei mitzvah, a shliach, an emissary, an agent to do a mitzvah. So if I send you, I appoint you as my agent to go and do a mitzvah for me. For example, there's a woman in Cape Town who I want to marry. Thank God I'm happily married, but let's, theoretically. And I'm worried that somebody might chop her before I have a chance to get to Cape Town. So I could say, Kent or Stephen, do me a favor. You're in Cape Town. I'm going to wire you some money. I'll do a EFT to your account. Please go and take this money or buy a ring and give it to Miss X, who's living in Sea Point, and tell her that with this money or this ring, she's married to me. You're my agent. You do it for me. Okay. So now you're on a mission. Now, if you're in Cape Town, just to go down the road is no big deal. But let's say you have to go by horseback to Stellenbosch or something. So now you're on a journey. So you are an emissary charged with a mission which involves a mitzvah. So you're busy doing that mitzvah. And when you're busy with one mitzvah, you're exempt from the other mitzvah because you can't do 2 mitzvahs at the same time, simultaneously necessarily. So you'd be exempt from the mitzvah of Sukkah while you're traveling on the Pony Express to Stellenbosch or something. People who journey during the day are freed during the day, but at night they're not on their journey. So at night they must be in the Sukkah. Likewise, the converse, if they're busy at night and they're obligated, they're exempt at night, but obligated during the day. What about people who are the watchmen of a city? A city's day watchmen are free to sukkah at night. Night watchmen are free at night, but they have to use the sukkah during the day. The watchmen of gardens and orchards are freed from fulfilling the mitzvah during the day and the night, because if the watchman to sukkah, the thief will realize the watchman has a fixed place and will go to steal from another place. It's very simple. He's giving away his location, this security guard. So it's he's not going to be not much good to the security if he's sort of announcing, I'm here, so you can go on the other side of the property and help yourself. So he too will be exempt. Now, here's a very important, this is the general principle. How do we observe the mitzvah of sukkah on sukkahs? So it says that you shall dwell in your sukkah. Basukot teshvu shiv'at yomim. You shall dwell in sukkahs for 7 days. What does dwell mean? Dwells means live. You should live in your sukkah. The sukkah becomes your primary residence. It's not just a little nice hut that you go out to take your meals. You should be living in your sukkah for 7 days. So how do we observe the mitzvah? A person must eat, drink, and live in the sukkah throughout all 7 days, both during the day and at night, in the same manner as he dwells in his home throughout the year. So the house becomes the temporary dwelling, and the sukkah becomes the permanent home. What does this imply? His attractive utensils and bedding should be brought to the sukkah. His drinking utensils, his cups. He should bring his good silverware, his good crockery, The good crystal you should bring out into the sukkah. Don't just bring paper and plastic just because you're outside. Bring your best stuff. Pots and pans, on the other hand, should be left outside the sukkah. That's disrespectful for the sukkah to bring pots and pans, and the practicalities that should be candelabra also be brought into the sukkah if there's room. There's no room, you don't have to. So I always tell my wife, make sure you bench licht, you light the Shabbos and Yom Tov candles in the sukkah. Take the candlesticks, the candelabra into the sukkah, and that we live in our sukkah. So if you're having a cup of tea, you could be exempt. We'll soon learn that you could be exempt to have drinks. But if you're having a cup of tea, do it in the sukkah. You're reading the newspaper. Does anybody still read newspapers these days? I don't know. But let's imagine you're reading a newspaper or a book, or you're studying the daily chumash or whatever you do. Do it in the sukkah. That's the basic principle, that eat, drink, sleep, do whatever you have to do. Basically, live in the week. Now, sometimes in Johannesburg, anyway, I don't know what the weather's like in Cape Town on Sukkot, but in Johannesburg, it sometimes rains on Sukkot. I remember when I was living in New York, one Sukkot, it rained for 7 days. The whole Jewish community, millions of Jews in New York City, were devastated. It was not such a joyous festival as it was meant to be. We felt like God is upset with us. He won't give us a chance to be in the sukkah. It was terrible. Now, sometimes a whole lot of guests for a sukkah's dinner, and it was pouring rain. So everybody sat inside in the dining room and ate. I didn't eat because, I'm a rabbi, so I'm stricter. And I waited till the rain stopped, and then I ate in the sukkah alone. But I had to feed all my guests. I couldn't keep them waiting till 11 o'clock at night. So if it rains on the first night, it's a biblical commandment to eat in the sukkah, more so than the rest of the week. So the first night, if it's raining, you actually have to wait until it stops raining and then go have kiddush and make hamotzi and have at least a piece of challah, 30 grams of bread on the first night. Let's say you don't want to eat bread, you just want to eat, you're on a diet. You're eating fruit only, fruit and drinks. Strictly speaking, we'll learn that for fruit and drinks, which is not a proper meal, you could get away eating outside of the sukkah. So if you're not going to eat bread and have a proper meal, strictly speaking, you don't have to go into the sukkah. But the first night, you must go into the sukkah under all circumstances. If it's pouring rain, you have to wait until the rain stops, or according to some, you even have to go out in the rain. He says the same law applies as those regarding the eating of matzah on Pesach. I think we learned it actually. I think I did that chapter. When is it a mitzvah to eat matzah on Pesach? It's a biblical commandment to eat matzah on Pesach only on Seder night. So the first 2 nights. But let's say you don't like matzah, or you're on diet, or whatever, or you're lazy to vas and bench. You don't want to eat matzah. You don't have to eat matzah the whole week. You can't eat chametz, but you could survive on eggs and fish and meat and whatever and fruit. You don't have to eat matzah the whole week. Obviously, on Shabbos and Yom Tov meals, it's ideal to have 2 matzahs, like you have 2 challahs. Excuse me. But it's not a biblical commandment. The biblical commandment is to eat matzah only on Seder night. If you want to eat meat and potatoes for the other 7 days, that's fine. Likewise, he says here, the biblical commandment is to eat in the sukkah on the first night. Number 8. It is forbidden for a person to sit and eat with his head and the majority of his body inside the sukkah, but his table is inside the house or outside the sukkah. It's considered as if he did not eat in the sukkah, even though his head and the most of his body was in the sukkah, because the table should also be inside the sukkah. But this is a rabbinic decree, lest one be drawn after one's table, and it applies even in a large sukkah. So generally speaking, if you had everything inside the sukkah and your feet were inside your house, but you open the window and now your sukkah is right outside your window, so you stuck your head and up to your waist over the window into the sukkah and you ate. Okay, you're a meshugana, you're an idiot. I mean, it's ridiculous. But if you choose to do that, you would be okay. You'd observe the mitzvah if your head and most of your body are there, but not if your table is outside. And that's not really all that pertinent unless you're in a difficult situation. You have to understand. I mean, Jews who suffered through the ages, whether during wars, Holocaust, or Nazi Europe, or communist Russia, where being Jewish was forbidden to practice Judaism, and they had these little nearly invisible sukkahs that they would put up camouflaged so that the authorities would not see it. This could actually be possible, that you're in your house and you stick your head out into a sukkah to observe the mitzvah because you're under very, very difficult circumstances. But thank God in our free countries, we don't have such problems generally. Okay, here's a big question, number 10. What if it's raining? So if it rains, strictly speaking, you are exempt from being in the sukkah. Why? Because we had the principle for mitzta'er. If you suffer discomfort, we said before, you're exempt, right? So if it's raining, how many people here enjoy eating in the rain? My wife says she loves to walk in the rain, but I don't think anybody loves to sit down to a meal in the rain with the water dripping into your chicken soup, So if rain descends, you may go into the house, leave the sukkah. How much rain? What is it? A tiny little drizzle or a hailstorm? He says enough raindrops descend into the sukkah so that they would spoil your food. Meaning it's a proper rain, not just a little drizzle. Because if you have thick schach, it could prevent a lot of the rain getting in. If a person started eating the sukkah and then the rain came and he entered his home, if the rain stopped, we don't obligate him to return to the sukkah, but it would be nice, but he's not obligated. If he was sleeping in the sukkah and the rain came and he went home into the house, also not obligated to go back in. He can spend the night at home. Now, we spoke here about people suffering discomfort by sleeping out in the sukkah if there's flies or wind or bad odor. We didn't discuss one of the big problems in South Africa of sleeping in the sukkah. What is it?
Security.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Security. If I'm in the sukkah, that means I have to close my security beams, or if I don't have a really solid, impregnable wall or electronic fencing, am I safe in my garden? I don't exactly have a lock on my sukkah door. So most people would consider themselves most uncomfortable and feeling very insecure sleeping in the sukkah. So that would certainly be a bigger exemption than the flies or the wind or the odor. Number 11. A person should not take apart his sukkah after he finishes eating on the 7th day of Sukkot until Yom Tov is out. You may not take it apart on Yom Tov. But once the afternoon has come in, you may take your utensils out. So you may take the things out of the sukkah, but you can't start dismantling, deconstructing the sukkah. And the mitzvah of sukkah goes throughout the full last day of the sukkah until nighttime. So it's not just, it doesn't finish after lunch. If you're having an early dinner before nightfall, you would still eat it in the sukkah. In fact, there's a tradition that on the last day of Sukkot, we still eat in the sukkah. Our custom is to eat in the sukkah on the 8th day, which is called Shmini Atzeret. We don't make a bracha on the sukkah anymore on the 8th day, only 7 days, but we still eat our meals in the sukkah on the 8th day. And it says that there's a custom that in the afternoon, you go in and you have a cup of tea, a biscuit or something in the sukkah to sort of say farewell to the sukkah. It's a very nice tradition. Number 12. When you sit in the sukkah and you're going to eat in particular, we say a bracha. Baruch atah Hashem, leishev basukkah, to dwell in the sukkah. On the first night, we say Kiddush. So we recite the blessing on the sukkah and then the blessing on the occasion. That means Shechiyonu. Now, when you make Kiddush on Sukkot, you say Bare Pri Hagofen, then you say Mekadesh Yisrael v'Hazmanim, about the day, Yom Chag HaSukkot Hazeh. Then we say Shechiyonu, first 2 nights of Sukkot. So the first night of Sukkot, first we say Leisha Basukkah, the bracha on the Sukkah, and then we say Shechiyanu. The second night, we say Shechiyanu and then Leisha Basukkah. Kiddush is recited on a cup of wine, as we know, and we say it standing. Here he says, when you say Leisha Basukkah, you sit. Because leishev means to dwell or to sit. But not everybody has that custom of the Rambam here. I, for example, stand for leishev basukkah because leishev doesn't only mean to sit, literally. Leishev means to dwell, to live. So you could do it standing as well. But some people do follow this custom that the Rambam brings here. When you say the bracha leishev basukkah, they sit down. He says, this was the custom of my teachers and the rabbis of Spain to recite Kiddush while standing on the first night of the Sukkot festival, as explained, and then to sit for the bracha of Leisha Basukkah. Maybe it's a Sephardic custom, but not all Ashkenazim do that. 13, at present in the diaspora, we celebrate holidays for 2 days. So we have 8 days. The 8th day, which is Shmini Atzeret, we dwell in the sukkah, but we do not recite the bracha. I already told you that. Similarly, the people who are of doubtful gender that we mentioned before never recite the blessing Leisha Basukkah because we're not sure if they're obligated. Because if they're female, we don't know if they're male or female. They're doubtful. If they're female, they're not obligated. So we don't know. But women generally do say the bracha on the sukkah because they've accepted upon themselves the mitzvah. Number 14. Okay, so we said when you're finished with everything, then you can take your things out. If you don't have any place else to put it, if it's a small sukkah, bring the candelabra into it. If it's a large sukkah, you could bring in the pots and plates to bring to mind that it is no longer acceptable and the mitzvah is completed. It's yontiv, so you may not reduce the space and nullify, like take off a wall and make the sukkah invalid. You may not do that. So we said before not to take down the sukkah and while it's still yontiv, nor should you do anything in that direction. May you build a sukkah on Chol HaMoed? Generally, we would not engage in building projects on Chol HaMoed. If you're building your house, you should tell the builder, take a week off, please. Maybe you can work the next 8 Sundays instead of the 7 days of Sukkot. But a sukkah may be built during Chol HaMoed. In Chabad, I see that all the time because we have these sukkah mobiles, sukkahs on trucks that go around to bring the mitzvah of sukkah to people who wouldn't have an opportunity otherwise. And they usually do it on the first day of Chol HaMoed. So if you didn't make it before Yom Tov, you may do it on Chol HaMoed. The wood with which the sukkah was constructed is forbidden to be used for other purpose than all they did. In other words, if you're using wood and schach for the mitzvah, you should not use it for other mundane activities. No benefit may be derived from it for other purposes. 16. Similarly, it is forbidden to take from the food and beverages that were hung in the sukkah. Okay, we're talking about sukkah decorations. What do you hang up in your sukkah? How do you decorate your sukkah? Come, unmute yourselves. Tell me, what's your favorite decorations on sukkahs?
There's usually the children usually put up pictures that they've drawn at school or at home.
So that they put it up on the walls, but we also have things hanging from the roof.
Decorations.
So what do you have hanging?
Usually
The schach.
Schach is not a decoration. Schach is part of the sukkah. When you hang decorations to make the sukkah pretty, to decorate.
Oil one and flour maybe.
So people do flowers, plastic flowers. People do colored lights or little colorful globes. But also people sometimes hang artificial fruit. But in the olden days, it seemed like they actually hung real food as decorations. So he says, it'll be forbidden to take from the food and beverage that were hung in the sukkah as decorations. Imagine hanging a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label as a sukkah decoration. However, if at the time you hung these decorations, you made a condition, I will not refrain from using them during the entire period of Bein Hashmashot, that means during between the suns, that means from sunset to nightfall, then he's entitled to use them whenever he desires, because he did not set them aside, he did not make them muktzah, so the sanctity of the sukkah did not encompass them, and they're not considered part of it. So it's, let's say you hung fruit or you hung beverages, you could actually take them if you made that condition and that stipulation when you put them up. If not, then they are muktzah, they are set aside, and you may not actually use them. They must only hang as decor. You may not actually use them on Sukkot. Okay, we have finished. Any questions?
Rabbi, is that why the Chabad minhag is not to decorate? Because
So the Chabad custom is not to decorate. When I was a kid growing up, I was very resentful of that custom because my friends and neighbors used to have beautiful decorations and we wouldn't. And I was very jealous of my friends. And it wasn't until I moved to South Africa as a husband and father with 2 kids of my own already, and I built my first sukkah for the first time in my life. Wasn't eating in my parents' sukkah. And I made this sukkah and I built it myself, and I was so proud of my sukkah, and I got the schach and everything. And suddenly it hit me that the sukkah itself is so beautiful. And suddenly the penny dropped, and I realized that I actually don't need any external decorations. The sukkah itself is beautiful. I was so proud of my sukkah. I was so happy with it. I didn't need any tzatzkis. I didn't need any decor to make my sukkah beautiful. Many years ago, I helped produce an SABC TV program on sukkahs. This goes back somewhere between, well, definitely over at least 35, 40 years ago. Who remembers Colin Fluxman from the SABC?
Yes.
He was the commentator. I went around on Erev Sukkot.
Sure.
I didn't have a shul yet. I was the director of Chabad House in Yeovil, Johannesburg, but I wasn't the rabbi of a shul. So I had time. So from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Erev Sukkot, I took an SABC film crew around Johannesburg to different sukkahs. I took one guy building his sukkah, another guy putting up his chach. I took a sukkah mobile. I took the Central City sukkah in Johannesburg, outside the Carlton Center. And I took him to the late Jonas Emanuel, to his sukkah. The Emanuels were the Yeke family in Yeovil, very religious people. And I was told he has a beautiful sukkah. So we took the film crew there. He had a garage, a standalone garage. And they made the roof of the garage removable. So the whole year, the roof was on, and on Sukkot, they removed the roof, and it became a sukkah. They put schach on instead of a roof. They took me in there. This sukkah was so decorated. It had chandeliers hanging. It was magnificent. But I had to look twice to see, is this a sukkah? It looked like the most beautiful, elaborate dining room. It was gorgeous. But I actually didn't feel like I'm in a sukkah. So that also gave me an insight into the possibly the reasons behind the Chabad custom that we don't actually decorate. But most of the world does decorate, and as you see from the Rambam, he talks about decorations. So feel free to decorate your sukkah and just follow the rules accordingly. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi
Okay,
Shka.
guys, have a
Yeah,
nice
thank you,
day.
Rabbi.
Have a good week.
Thank you,
Shalom.
Shka.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Hope
Thanks,
to see you
everyone.
next week. Please God,
Thank
my
you,
pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll come
Bye.
back, Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks, Rabbi.